Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to the 6th Munich Cybersecurity Conference. I greatly appreciate you're here today. The weather is so nice outside that you could have done something different. I was hoping for bad weather, but typically during this conference we have very nice weather. It has a downside because after 2 hours we run out of oxygen. But at the same time, I must say, we always choose this location here, the Bayerische Hof, because tomorrow our big brother, the security conference, starts here. And we always feel we should stay close to that. And we should make it a routine to have the cybersecurity conference before, because it's very important and it takes more and more space also in the main conference, for good reason. But let me not just welcome all of you, but let me also welcome a very special guest here, Mr. Schinas, the Vice President of the EU Commission, in charge of security. And I'm not sure whether you looked up the homepage of the Commission very recently. What you will find is a very well and nicely described vision of each commissioner. And all the duties and responsibilities are described very well. And when you read Mr. Schinas' vision and idea is promoting our European way of life. That includes a security union. And probably we're going to hear something after I speak from you. So it's a great honor to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. We also expect another guest. There were a little bit flight problems. Mr. José Angel Gurria, the Secretary General of the OECD. He will come sometime soon, and he will speak later as well. And it's also a great pleasure to have the OECD here, because the OECD is aiming for better policies for better life. And I think nowadays, it's not just a sound objective. I think it's needed to make our life better, because the digital society offers a lot of opportunities, but it also requires that we have the right policies behind. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Mr. Yasuhida Nakayama, State Secretary of the Foreign Ministry of Japan. Thank you very much for coming. Konnichiwa, yokoso. So, in that sense, I would like to also welcome you as dear fellow colleagues. Dear fellow colleagues, I'm speaking to all of you now, independent of hierarchy, independent from where you are, because we all have one and the same objective. That is to make this world a little bit a better place, in particular with all the changes we're actually foreseeing, often driven through technology and often driven through political change. That is the thing we have in common here. That's the reason why we are here. That's the reason why we want to have debates. That's the reason why we want to hear opinions, new issues, old issues, but also proposals on what we can do in actually to promote that objective. For that, we also need to have capable moderators. They sit in front of me here. It's Oliver Roelofs. Oliver is a person with long experience in politics, in business, in communication. You were involved in the main conference for over 15 years, so you know what's going on. So we have a demanding, let's say, audience here. You have to do a good job, right, Tyson? That's the same for you. So we have a second moderator, Tyson Barker. You are you are a deputy director and fellow of the Aspen Institute in Berlin for 3 years now. You have speciality, which is digitalization and transatlantic relations, which we all observe very closely. So I hope you bring some input here too. So you will run the show later. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here. So before we move on with the main part, let me quickly set the scene for this conference here today. We choose the title, Fail Safe, Act Brave, Building a Secure and Resilient Digital Society. For thousands of years, tangible things, assets, have been the driving force in our societies. And that actually drove the societies which we're living in, protected by walls, by borders, physically. And the digital world really has changed that. The technical innovation we saw over the last 3 decades created something which is virtual values, not just physical values. And these virtual values are not really tangible. But we all go with the digital infrastructures and with our digital identities into this world. And that world has not the same protection as the physical world. It has a different kind of protection. And the vulnerabilities in this world changes very fast. And as it changes very fast, we have to think, A, what are the root causes, why it changes fast, and B, what we can do. That's what we hope for to find input here today. Let me outline a few reasons why I believe it will accelerate even faster. If you look at the last decade, from 2010 to 2020, we saw a lot of changes. I think the time will never be as slow as it has been. The decade to 2030 will even accelerate. Just look at the global spend for innovation. It is over 2,000 billion, 2 trillion, spent in innovation and R&D. $580 billion come from the United States. In the meantime, 520 from China, followed by Japan, 180. Germany is the only country from the EU under the top 5 with round about 120. So, having United States with 580, having China with 520, Europe altogether, 400. Actually, it makes good reason that Europe cooperates. It makes good reason that Europe cooperates. And the technological race is on, because it's not just a race on having the best technology, but it's also a race on who is having the best technology. And that makes it a bit complicated. Yeah? So if that span goes on and it increases year by year, that is one of the root causes why it gets faster. A second point to look at is of how policies are being made today. And what we see is that policy making, Mr. Schieners, we just spoke about it very briefly, of course, can often only react. It's very difficult to be proactive in policy making. But if the world is technology fueled, if it is not undermined with technological competence and input, how can we be confident that we see the consequences and the benefit of certain technologies as we move ahead? So we must enrich policy making with technological input. I think otherwise we maybe fail. And if you think that a bit further down the line, then we still are the same people like 30 years back. We still live in the same governments. We still live in the same infrastructures. The rules are often still the same. So how can we make sure that we actually catch up with today's world and that we make the policies, which are technology in the technology-driven world, so that it fits to today's society, so that we can fill the objective we have, build a secure and resilient digital world. I would hope to see a lot of input here today, because that's what we're here for. I think the audience is perfect for that. I like the small setup with content-rich discussions, not the big shows. Here we have content-rich discussions, so that we all contribute here today to a better, resilient, and secure digital world. I wish you all a good conference here today, and I wish you good inputs. And now I would like to ask our special guest of honor, Mr. Schieners, to take the floor. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good conference.